It is your duty to ensure that your generals are dutifully prepared to answer the call to duty. Hi, and welcome to Evony. I am Akayasha, and in case you hadn't guessed, we are on duty generals today. So we're going to run through right quick on the basic things that you need to know to get your generals ready for duty. Duty generals are generals that, when assigned to buildings, unlock certain buffs that are specific to that building. When you start off, your buildings will generally have the duty feature locked, as you see here. But as you level up the buildings, that feature becomes unlocked at certain levels. I'll have a quick look at my hospital right here. You can see that it's unlocked. We click on that, and then it takes us to the duty menu. Here you have three tabs at the top, and you can move between them to access the duty features for each of your buildings. In the space for each building, you see an eye at the top left. You click that, and then it opens up the menu telling you the duty requirements for each of the various levels for that building. There are 5 levels of duty, starting from junior and going all the way to super. And you can see there, it gives you the stat requirements for each of the levels. In this case, we're looking at my keep, and you can see that the stats required are politics and leadership. These stats will vary for different buildings. So you need to check each building to make sure that you know what stat is required. Once the general is assigned to the building, for the specific level that the general meets the requirements for, the duty benefits for that building will be unlocked. So as you see here in the case of my keep, the duty benefit is increase in construction speed. At higher levels, you get an added benefit of training capacity as well. Now, there are certain generals in the game that are made specifically to be duty generals. We're going to go to the tavern and have a quick look at the full list of them. We start off in Europe, and we have 2 duty generals here. And before I continue, please forgive me if I butcher any of the names going forward. The first general that we have here, John the First of Portugal, increases range troop attack, defense, and HP by 5%, and range troop training speed by 20% when the general is the archer camp officer. So, in addition to the building specific buffs that you get for the various levels, this general will add these extra buffs to your game. We move to the next general, Skanderberg. Increases hospital capacity by 25% when the general is the hospital duty officer. That's it for Europe. We go on next to Japan, where we have Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Increases march size by 5% and attacking troops attack and HP by 5% when the general is the rally sports duty officer. Now we move to Korea, where we have 2 here as well. The first general, Gwon Ryu, increases siege machine attack, defense, and HP by 5% and siege machine training speed by 20% when the general is the workshop duty officer. We go on to the next general, Yulji Mundeok, increases research speed by 20% when the general is the academy duty officer. Next, we go over to China, where we have the famous or the infamous Ban Chao. Reduces enemy mounted troop attack by 20% and increases your in-city troop attack by 20% when the general is the archer tower duty officer. We go on to the next general in China, Zhuge Liang. Increases construction speed by 20% when the general is the keep duty officer. That's it for China. We move on over to Russia. We have 2 generals here as well. First one is Menshikov. He also increases construction speed by 20% when he's the keep duty officer. So Zhuge Liang and Menshikov are duty officers for the same building. Next, we go over to Oleg of Novgorod. Increases mounted troop attack, defense, and HP by 5% when the general is the stables duty officer. He also increases mounted troop training speed by 20%. Moving on, we come over to Arabia, where we have Abad al-Rahman I. Increases ground troop attack, defense and HP by 5%, and ground troop training speed by 20% when he is the barracks duty officer. And finally, we come over here where we have Askia Muhammad I. Reduces gem and resource cost of siege machine repairs by 15% and increases in-city siege attack by 25% when he is the trap factory duty officer. So this is the full list of specialized duty officers that we have in the game so far. Now, the next thing that you might be wondering is, okay, how does one go about getting these special duty officers? You can get them in a number of ways, and some are available in different locations within the game. With the most recent update, Skanderberg, Yuji Mondeok, and Askia Mohammed are now available in the tavern. Next up, in the Great General chest, you can get John of Portugal, Ban Chao, Oleg, and Askia Muhammad. They are all available in here. And of course, you get the fragments. By the time you're able to collect up to 30 for each specific general, then you get the full general. If you get very lucky, you might also be able to get the general outright from the chests over here. You can also get generals from the daily fragments for the general of the month. That's the chest that we get here daily free. Depending on the month, you might get a duty general in that month. January that just went by, we had Askia Muhammad as the general of the month. Next, we go to relics. And inside the relics, you have the option of getting various generals. And one of those general options is Abad al-Rahman I. There he is. So if you explore your relics, open the chamber, you will get the opportunity to get fragments for Abad al-Rahman. And if once you get 30, then you get the general. Finally, we have premium generals. And these are generals that you can only get by spending money or having general tokens or some other special event in the game. So for these premium generals, Toyotomi of Japan, Won Ryu from Korea, Zhuge Liang, and Menshikov are premium generals. There's no other way to get them in the game. Now, once you have gotten your hands on a duty general, the next thing that you need to do is to prepare them to actually go on as duty generals. So you then need to focus on developing the general. First thing, you need to raise the general's level, star the general, and then cultivate the general specific to the requirements of the building that you want to put them on. As you see my John of Portugal here, he's fully starred. He's raised up to the max level that I can get to right now. And you see he's the Archer Camp officer. So if we go back to the Archer Camp and we have a look at the duty requirements, he needs attack and leadership to be cultivated. Now, if we go back to the general and we have a look at my cultivation for him, you can see clearly that attack and leadership are the two stats that I are focused on raising for him. And that is because he is specific to the Archer Camp, and that is the requirement for the Archer Camp. No need to worry about cultivating anything else. Now, doing all of these will get you to meet the stat requirements for the various levels of duty. However, it would not get you to meet the power requirements for Special Duty Officer and Super Duty Officer. But what you do for those is very simple. I'll use a different general to illustrate. I'll go to my warehouse here and bring up Sherman. Now, Sherman has the stats to meet Special Duty Officer level. However, if I put him on, he only goes as far as senior. And that is because he does not meet the power requirements right now to be a special warehouse officer. But what you do, very simple, just take him off and put some gear on him. Gear you can take from other generals that you have. And once you have the gear on him and he meets the power requirement, you can see he's now 3.4 million. Just go back to the building, put him on again, and he will be a special duty officer. Once he's on, just come back take the gear off, and no problem. He remains a special duty officer. You will do this for special and for super once you meet the stat requirements for each of them. So, going back to John of Portugal, aside from this development, if you have the luxury to do so, you can work on the specialties of your general. I'll just go to John of Portugal here. Now, if you look at his last two specialties, you can see that he has attributes that are specific to the work he's going to do as your duty general. So in this case here, if you complete his specialty, you will get an additional 20% to range troop training speed and 20% to range troop training capacity. If you look at the fourth one, same thing, more boost to your training speed and training capacity. So if you manage to complete these two specialties, you will have an additional 46% of training speed and an additional 40% of training capacity. And that's on top of what he naturally gives and what you will get from the building specific levels that he's at. All duty generals have these specialties in them. Now, of course, specialties are not easy to do, and you probably wouldn't be able to get around to doing that for all of your generals. But if you somehow had the means to do so, that is an option that you can look at. Now, looking at a hypothetical situation, let's say you couldn't get your hands on any of these specialized generals. What do you do? Well, the fortunate thing is that the duty general system works for any general. They don't have to be specialized duty officers. Any general can be put on as a duty officer. So there are a few ways that you can go about this. The first thing that you could do, and this is what I do, is your PvP generals, when you are not using them, you can put them on buildings as duty officers. Take, for example, here, I have my Joseph Johnston, who is my wall general on my keep. I have Himiko, my range general on my academy. I have Trajan, my ground general on my hospital. When I am not doing PvP, these guys are on duty and I'm getting the benefits from those buildings. The second thing that you could do is to repurpose no longer used generals. So for example, let's say when you were starting off, you got George Washington in the tavern and you were using him as your cav general. Later on, fortunately, you got a new general, Hannibal. Hannibal is objectively a better cav general than George Washington. So you start developing Hannibal and you switch over to Hannibal. What you could do with George Washington at that point in time is take him over and put him in a building to be a duty officer. The final thing that you could do, obviously, in the game, we get a lot of generals, some that we have already, some that we don't want. What you could do is you could take one of those generals and develop them specifically to be put on as duty generals. Now, if you're looking for a way that is effective and straightforward to develop your generals and raise them to the max level to get them ready for duty, be sure to check out this video here. Thank you. Aka signing out.